sometimes, man, we find ourselves over explaining why we are becoming a better version. And I'll tell you this right now, if you ever find yourself over explaining something, it's because you feel like what you're doing is wrong. People don't give a fuck what you say. A lot of people do not understand this. They care about what you do. All of a sudden, you second guess obstacles in my path. I'm a whole gentleman when I say you don't think that you're gonna make it. Seems like there's something standing in my way. Keep relying on it could change the entire trajectory of baseline life. You the baseline. The moment that they see you not display the things that you preach, you don't fucking matter. What's going on, everybody? It's that ordinary podcaster with the extraordinary thoughts that tells you to stop being great and be extraordinary. I'm your host, Demetrius Thigpen, also known as Meech Speaks, and welcome back to another episode of the Meech Speaks podcast. Now, before we get started with this podcast, don't forget to head on over to your favorite streaming platform, whether that's Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts, and leave this podcast an honest review, because this podcast deserves to grow just as much as we do. Now, first week, we talked about emotions. You see what I'm saying? We talked about emotions. Last week, we talked about recalibration and structure. Now, sticking with the theme of January and talking about recalibration, this week, we talking about, honestly, what happens when everything starts to fall in place. Okay? That's really what it is. What happens when everything starts to fall in place? All right? And the first thing that you will notice is the relationships that you have around you. Now, I've always been one to stress this, is that if you really want to see a big change within your life, you got to change three things, okay? Or let me rephrase that. You got to change one of three things, all right? Those are either your friends, your habits, or your environments. All this month, we've been talking about changing our habits. So naturally, if you change your habits, your friends are going to change. And if your friends change, then your environment's going to change. If you change your habits, your environment changes your friends. If you change your environment, your friends will change, your habits will change. One of these things will always make the other two have to change. Now, the problem is that we love change, right? Like, we love change. You feel me? We feel like change is good, change is growth, change is everything. However, that's logically. You see what I'm saying? Like, from a logical standpoint, we love fucking change. Emotionally, though, you start making strides in the right direction and notice that there's some people in your life that are no longer there. You gonna feel like you doing something wrong. You start bettering yourself and you notice that the people that you thought were your friends ain't no longer fucking with you. You start, man, when I tell you, it'll have you feeling like you're doing something wrong. It will have you feeling like maybe I need to go back to who I used to be. It'll have you feeling like, what the hell is going on? I thought I was doing the right thing. And that's exactly how I felt. All right. Now, for those who have been listening to the podcast, you were there when I made the transition from being OMG It's Meech to the extraordinary podcaster to Meech Speaks as he is today. You were there. You feel me? Some of y'all were there with me in real time. Some of you were working side by side with me. And for those who are just now finding the podcast and just now listening to me, that was one of the hardest transitions that I will ever say occurred within my life, because there was just so many things that were happening that there were moments where I legitimately thought that I was doing something fucking wrong. All right. I'm talking about 2020. I had made the decision that, you know what? I don't want to do the typical get out of the Marine Corps job. You know, I didn't want to do the typical veteran job. I wanted to get into speaking and I wanted to do podcasting. And that's exactly what the fuck I did. I started podcasting. You see what I'm saying? I started pushing out content. And I also had to start aligning with who I was portraying myself to be. All right. And I say that because there's a lot of people online. You feel me? Like a lot of social media influencers, you feel me, that they ain't exactly who the fuck they say they are online. Like, if you meet this person in real life and then you see this person online, those two people never match up. All right. Now, I was talking about self-improvement. So, of course, that if I'm telling you to improve, that means that I got to improve as well. And that meant that my drinking had to get under control. OK, my behaviors in uniform and outside of uniform also had to get under control. And one of these times, right, I remember It was literally like the month before I decided I needed to get my shit together. There was a mess night. They told us it was going to be an all NCO mess night. You could drink at this mess night. Mess night starts at 5. We didn't get out of work until 4. Okay. I'm running a little bit behind. You see what I'm saying? I'm running a little bit behind. And I said, you know what? I cannot show up to this mess night drunk. Let me rephrase that. I can't show up to this mess night sober. There it is. I couldn't show up sober. So what I did was that as I was getting my uniforms ready, I started pre-gaming. I start pre-gaming heavy. You feel me? All I had in the house was wine though. So I'm just drinking wine. You feel me? Just slamming it. My ride pulls up. 3 of my guys, they hop out. They toss me a beer. I crush that beer. You feel me? Now there's wine and beer in my system. Okay. I get into the damn venue. There's some drinks. People pass me drinks. Now it's wine, beer, and liquor all in my fucking system. At first, I wasn't feeling it. By the time we got into that mess hall and we sat down, I was completely fucking shit-faced. I was shit-faced, bro. And I think, honestly, that moment right there was a core memory for me because it was one of those deciding factors where I was like, bro, like, I really need to get my shit together. How the fuck am I telling people that they need to get their shit together, or I'm helping people get their shit together, but my shit isn't together? You know what I mean? And in that moment, I started to do exactly what the fuck I was telling other people to do. Now, here's the issue, though. You feel me? Is that did my life change? 100%. You feel me? I was no longer waking up outside because I had passed out. I wasn't showing up to mess nights drunk. I wasn't fucking showing up shit-faced. I had my drinking under control. But I also started losing people. You feel me? Because my habits changed. I remember I had a friend, and I ain't gonna say his name, but I had a friend. And every Saturday, me and him would just hang out. We would drink. And I'm talking about the nights would end with me like throwing up. I just would be hammered, bro, like hammered. I felt like we did more drinking than we did talking. And when I started focusing on my goals, when I started focusing on my aspirations, when I started focusing on becoming a better version of myself, our relationship started to become distant. You feel me? Because I couldn't hang out with him and do that shit no more. And that hurt me, because I thought that he sees me getting my life together, maybe he'll get his. You feel me? There's still room with where I'm at. You can hang out with me. Another friend, you feel me? Another friend. I'm talking about, man, that was my man's too. That was my man's. And I feel like he started to feel a certain way by how I was moving. And in the sense of he started to feel like he was being left behind. And the sad part is that we would have a conversation about it later, but I never left him behind. In fact, I wanted him to come with me. But the reality is that he just didn't see himself on that journey. And that broke my heart because I didn't want our friendship to end. I bring all of this up, man, because one of the hardest things that we will ever face is the loss of relationships, especially when we decide to pick ourselves first. Now, I know there's most people that will sit back and they'll say, like, you know what? I'll always choose me. Yeah, man, like that's easy to say that from a logical standpoint. But emotionally, when you feeling like you're alone because you're growing, you're going to start asking yourself, am I doing this shit wrong? Like, what the fuck is going on? So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into today's episode, because today's episode is all about dealing with those relationships as you recalibrate yourself. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, the first thing right out the gate is why does growth create distance? And the reality is that growth is going to create distance because you don't have time to bullshit anymore. All right. I'm going to just be honest with you. You don't have that time to bullshit like you used to anymore. I don't know who needs to hear this. If you decided that you want to take going to the gym serious, then you don't got time to be fucking eating whatever the fuck you want. And that means that you can't hang out with people that be eating whatever the fuck they want, because that's a distractor to you. If you say, you know what, man, I'm going to focus on school, then guess what? You don't got time to hang out with people that want to go to the club every fucking night. If your goals don't align with the shit that everybody else is doing, you're going to make a decision. Either I'm going to choose my goals or I'm going to choose that person. And 9 times out of 10, guess what you about to do? You going to choose your fucking goals. So naturally, as you grow, as you progress, that distance with your old habits is going to increase because of the simple fact that you don't have time to bullshit no more. You really don't. And it's not in a sense of time is running out. You just want to lock the fuck in. Another reason why growth creates distance, especially with old relationships, is because now you're making room for newer relationships. And I'll say that again. Old relationships are going to have distance between them, especially when we talk about growth, because now you have to make room for newer relationships. When I started podcasting and I started going into this niche, I had to hang around people that were also within that niche as well. One, I'm bouncing ideas off of these people. Two, I'm going to events with these people. Three, I align more with these people. I don't really have time for the old things that I was doing. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's almost a no-brainer when you really dive into this episode, but at the exact same time, those old relationships, those are my friends. I cherish these old relationships. These people were here with me when nobody else was. And it does suck because I feel like I'm losing them. Now, these new relationships that are coming in, are they going to bring value? 100% they will. Do they align with me? Yes. But one of the main reasons why that distance that distance gets greater because of the growth is because of the simple fact that those old friends aren't going with you. And it's almost selfish to expect them to go. But at the exact same time, one of us does have to leave. Now, the next thing in this episode, and I would definitely say this, is that sometimes it ain't always like a pleasant, like, you know what, we just grew apart. Sometimes there's a little pushback. I remember going and saying to myself, like, damn, bro, like, I wish that it didn't have to end up like this. And I remember the guy that I used to drink with, he felt a certain way. He definitely did feel a certain way. And he felt that way in the sense of like, oh, he thinks that he's so much better, but he showed up to the mess night drunk as fuck. You feel me? And I had to learn to realize, like, a lot of times, man, like you can't fault somebody for losing you. If that makes sense. Like, you really can't fault somebody for losing you. They pushing back because they miss you just as much as you would miss them. You see what I'm saying? Like, they didn't date. It wasn't their idea for you to get your shit together. It wasn't their idea for y'all didn't sit there and say, you know what, we gonna lock in together. Like, you didn't do that. You made that decision. And now they have to deal with the consequences of losing you. Either A, they go on this path with you, or B, they lose you altogether. And that's exactly what that situation is that honestly, they miss you. And they do want you to come back. And to be honest with you, sometimes you do want to go back as well. I'd be lying if I wanted to hang out with Gold and sit back and have a drink with him again. You know what I mean? I'd be lying. But at the exact same time, I knew that I had other shit that I needed to do. And that piece right there, dude, it sucks because you have to realize that y'all are just in two different stages. And when you can finally accept the fact that y'all are at two different stages and y'all are going down two different paths, does it make it easier? No, it doesn't. It doesn't, because it still stings. But you learn to accept that. You feel me? You learn to accept that. Now, third, there's a couple of reasons why you will probably want to revert back to who you were, or feel like you have to shrink yourself when you come around like people that you used to fuck with. Or because one thing that you got to take into consideration about this is that these people that you probably are growing apart from, they probably ain't just friends outside of work. They probably friends inside of work as well. You will feel like you need to revert back or shrink back because you want to feel accepted again. Because I'll tell you right now, this shit is very lonely. Okay, it is, especially when you decide to put yourself first, especially when you decide that, you want to better yourself, honestly. And if they choose not to, it is going to feel lonely, because you're going to feel like, yo, like, damn, man, like, we used to do this. We used to hang out. We used to go to this place. And now it's like, fuck, bro, like, I got to deal with that on my own, or I got to figure this out. And a lot of times, man, like, we find ourselves reverting back to who we used to be just to relive our old memory. To be honest with you, sometimes, man, we find ourselves over explaining why we are becoming a better version. And I'll tell you this right now, if you ever find yourself over explaining something, it's because you feel like what you're doing is wrong. All right. That's why. If you find yourself over explaining why you chose to become a better version of yourself, that's because you feel like what you're doing is wrong. If you have to apologize for the boundaries that you set because you want to become a better version of yourself, 9 times out of 10, you feel like those boundaries are wrong. And I'll be the first one to tell you right now, those boundaries are not wrong. You wanting to become a better version of yourself. You were just wanting to lock the fuck in. You just wanting to recalibrate. You just wanting to get your shit together. Ain't nothing wrong about that. You feel me? Honestly, man, if they was really your fucking friends, if they was really fucking with you, you know what I mean? Like they really care, then they would completely understand. It wouldn't even be no pushback, to be honest with you. Like, even though like we're on this episode and I'm trying to talk to you about dealing with it, to keep it a buck with you. If they was really your friends and they really were fucking with you, you wouldn't have to over explain yourself. You wouldn't feel like setting these boundaries is wrong. And that's something that I had to make peace with. And I had to truly understand that when I decided, I didn't have to over explain it to people that legitimately cared about me. I did not. I said, hey, man, like, this is what I'm on now. This is what I plan on doing. This is my goals. Oh, bet. All right. Say less, bro. I ain't going to reach out to you about that. You feel me? Let me know if you need something. I say that, man, because a lot of times, man, we excuse the fact that, and we feel like as if we the bad guy. You not the bad guy, bro. To be honest, neither one of y'all are villains. It's just a lack of understanding. If I work with you, man, and I get promoted and you say like, oh man, you acting different, this shouldn't even be a fucking conversation. You feel me? Because if I'm acting different because of negatively, I understand. But if I'm acting different because I got promoted and I'm doing my job, me and you shouldn't even be having this conversation. If you feel like I'm acting different because now I have goals and boundaries, me and you shouldn't even be having this conversation. And that's the reality of this, man, is the lack of understanding between both parties. But at the exact same time, and I'm just going to keep it a buck, there should never be a reason why I have to explain or over explain why I'm choosing to do better. If you really my mans, if you really my friend, this shouldn't even be a conversation. And as we close this episode out, the big ticket item with this is how do I deal with all this? First things first, you got to understand that distance does not mean resentment. All right. And I'll say it again. Distance does not equal resentment. Just because there's distance between us, just because we ain't hanging out all the time, just because we ain't fucking with each other like we used to, that don't mean that there's bad blood. That doesn't mean that I hate you. That doesn't mean that there's something against us. You feel me? No. All right. You're going down one path and I'm going down another path. I still love you. You feel me? I still love you. But at the exact same time, I got shit I got to take care of. And I know you got shit to take care of. Problem is that a lot of times, like, people feel like that distance mean that we turning into enemies. You didn't gain an enemy from me. You didn't lose a friend out of me either. All you did was there's just distance between us. You feel me? We just can't fuck with each other like how we used to. That's one of the reasons. That's one of the ways to deal with that. Another thing is just like what I had mentioned, compassion. All right. Compassion. I can still love you, but at the same time, just because I love you, that don't mean I got to compromise. And I'll say that again. Just because I got love for you, just because I love you, that don't mean I got to compromise on my goals. And I don't know who need to hear that. All right. But you can still love them without compromising. You feel me? I can't tell you, man. Like, I got a friend right now. When me and him started creating that distance, that shit broke my heart. You feel me? Because I thought that there was love lost. But I remember reaching back out to him and telling him, like, dog, there was never bad blood. I just had things I needed to take care of. And when we finally had that conversation, you see what I'm saying? That's when we were able to come to a common ground. And I will honestly just say this, man, because without all the fluff, without all the glam, really it comes down to a real conversation. All right. If those are really your fucking friends, if those are really people that care about you, it's a simple conversation, dude. Like, me explaining to you what my goals are, my aspirations, is either A, you fucking with it, B, you not. But one thing that I am going to do, I'm definitely going to do it. All right. So with that being said, man, first week, we had a lot of emotions. You see what I'm saying? Second week, we created a plan. This week, we dealing with relationships. Next week, I got something for you as we close out this month of recalibration. Because at the end of the day, man, at the end of the day, the goal, the dream, the aspirations, that shit can't wait on everybody.
And just like that, another extraordinary thought left this ordinary mind. I hope you enjoyed this episode half as much as I enjoyed making it. Don't forget to head on over to your favorite streaming platform, whether that's Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts, and leave this podcast an honest review, because this podcast deserves to grow just as much as we do.